I have to fire on, I talked to Amy, my lovely producer of this play, and we both agreed that we fire on all cylinders or none. And over Christmas, I fired over no cylinders and it was dreadful. And in January, I fired on all cylinders. And I've talked about festival, which we're starting up again. I've invited some my heroes. I've invited some of my heroes to show the latest films. Why are they letting us do that? It's going to be amazing. Lovely people. And I'll tell you what, there is a correlation between being lovely and succeeding. There really is. Anyone who will tell you, I know I'm a bastard, but I get results. It's blind to the opportunities that they have closed for themselves. But it's so obvious to me, so disturbing to me when I see an older professional in a room storm in and, like I say, belittle and confuse and out of fear. They're operating out of fear, which is not helpful. And you see that, like, beneath all of my thinking is this excessively basic thinking. Be kind, don't be scared. But what is built upon that is a very complex hierarchy in people of thinking that there are certain circumstances in which it's okay to be unkind or scare others. I've yet to have been in a scenario in my 37 years on the planet where that was true. And it really disturbs me when I see people storm in and gloat and condescend and push around and talk over and pretend that they have a right to do that, but they don't, because they're just a human and they have as much worth as any other human. They're not producing the best products with that attitude. I just wonder. I would love to see like a little story of your life flashback of every room they've been in and how people took it when they left and how that changed the trajectory of their lives, because I guarantee that it did. It's so disturbing and fascinating to me, which is one of the few times I have an actual segue to my next topic, which is my film, A Filmmaker's Guide to Revenge, aka Dicks. It depends who I'm talking to about it, which title I'll use. Colloquially, we've all been calling it Dicks the entire time because it's actually the perfect title. I just know that it's going to close opportunities for me. I'm going to come back to Dicks, but I just remembered that I have all these books. I'm slowly building a collection of Leo X. Robertson books because people ask me how many books I've written and I didn't know, and I thought that was an interesting question. Or, you know, I thought maybe I should come up with a different answer because they keep asking until I have a definitive answer. So I'm working on a different video and I'm collecting my own books because I didn't have them all. And I have this novel that I'm really proud of that I finally self-published called Oil and Gash, about men in the oil industry who cheat on their wives. That's where the title came from. And I think it's great, and I think it was well structured and had something unique to say, and I wrote it when I was 25, which is 12 years ago. I think the reason nobody picked it up was the title, but I'm not, it's the perfect title, I'm not changing it. Are you kidding me? Oil and Gash? That's genius. How dare you? So likewise, the film is called Dicks, but we gave it the title A Filmmaker's Guide to Revenge so that, you know, if anyone took umbrage with it, I can make a poster with a different title and say it and pretend that that's the real title, but we all know it's Dicks. And it was about a horrible producer I met last year who condescended to hell at me. And do you know what I learned? So the film starts with basically how that meeting with him felt for me. What he did was sit with a guy and talk about a script in Norwegian while I showed up. And I showed up like perfectly on time. So our meeting was supposed to start, but he didn't finish talking to this other guy about this other script that they were working on. And another guy in the meeting had to say, oh, like, they're just really excited about it. It was the other guy who set up this meeting with these people, and he was really he really wanted it to work, clearly. And I felt worst for him, really. I loved that guy. I'm not going to name names or anything, but he was great. And he like, in setting up that opportunity, it was very kind of him to try and make a local production company take me seriously. That is difficult. That is difficult. As local arts communities are, people are very entrenched in working with people that they already know. And what we've ended up doing, after years of putting lots of dedication into our own work, is creating our own production company, creating our own festival, creating our own films and our own screenings of them and everything. Such an ecosystem and a community and an infrastructure that it's just become its own thing that anyone's always welcome to be part of as well. You know, the vibes are immaculate. I'll say it again, that's what I want. Immaculate vibes, that's what I'm doing this for. The immaculate vibes behind the camera will translate onto the screen. The immaculate vibes behind the play will translate onto the stage. I'm so glad I have this chance to think openly about what the hell I'm doing. I clearly needed it. I haven't been sleeping very well this week because I've just been going over in my head, what am I doing? What kind of guy am I? And why am I doing this? And how am I going to do it? And then I watched this clip of David Lynch from his masterclass. And he was like talking about how it's common sense that you be nice to people because they're going to want to work with you if you're nice to them. And if you pressure creatives, you squeeze them down and they won't feel safe enough to fail in your company, which is what creativity is. It's just failing. It's trial and error. It's trial and error. And people have to be able to try and make errors in order to reach the right solution. And they have to feel safe to do that. You can't push it out of them. You can't take a pre-existing method of directing or anything and meet a person you've never met before and apply this to them to get the results out. You have to meet them on a case-by-case basis. On a project-by-project basis. This is why this kind of career remains compelling for somebody's entire life, because they never crack it. You know, every team changes and then it starts over again. I just read that Peter Jackson hasn't made a film because his director of photography passed away, and he would have to develop a relationship with a new one all over again. You know, I guess to him it would be like learning how to direct from first principles once more. Maybe he was not prepared to do that after having delivered so many masterpieces, I guess. I imagine that would be a big problem at his age. I don't know. What was I talking about? Dicks. I was talking about dicks and this meeting, and the guy was so rude to me that this is obviously something I feel more passionate about than anything else. Kindness. Kindness is like what I feel the most passionately about. It's not pushing people around to make to be known as a guy who makes films. Let me talk about that as well. With the festival, I'll get back to dicks probably if I remember. With the festival, once people saw that it was going to be a success, they wanted to try and work with us. And when somebody wants to try and work with you and they're very nervous, I talked about this before, but I'll go into more detailed example. When people want to work with you and they're very nervous, what they do is they pick apart what you've done to prove that you don't know everything and that you would need them to tell you what to do. But what they're doing there is carving out a space for themselves that isn't necessarily there, and they're not doing it in a way that makes it seem like they would be pleasant company to work with. And it's nerves and it's fear again. Yes, and this has happened to us multiple times. There have been times when one of my other collaborators will come up to me on like a film that we're working on, and they'll go, "Leo, what are we going to do about our film poster? I mean, it's a shambles." And I'll go, "What the hell are you talking about? I really like the design. Why don't you like it?" And they'll say, "Well, yeah, I just talked to this graphic designer friend of mine, and he said it wasn't very good, but he would do another one for us." And it manifests itself in so many different ways. It's like getting negged. You know, remember that? Neil Strauss, The Game? It's like a pickup artist negging you in order to make you need them. It's manipulative. That's manipulative, is what that is. And so I guess the alternative is just to kind of openly present your credentials, talk about how you might improve what's going on. You know, it's just a reframing of the same thing. Don't pick something apart that is fine, because as soon as we figure it out, we're going to go, I don't want you around me picking things apart that are fine. That doesn't help the organization, you know? Maybe think of something that you can help improve. Or think of, like, if you have a particular passion for a task that you know that people find tedious, that is genuinely helpful. You know, like I've got this stack of books, and a lot, like some of these are with small presses, and I'll talk about that. Some of these small presses let me design the covers, which I'm very thankful for. But some of them are entirely self-published, and I didn't do that because didn't do that out of my first choice. I didn't learn how to format the interior of a book and graphic design the cover and release it myself and promote it. I didn't do all these things because I wanted to do all those things. I did it because involving other people was so painful or unreliable that it was actually of more benefit for me just to learn the skills myself and do it myself if I could. Getting tedious tasks taken off my hands is always a way to help me. But I'm not going to let you do it if I think you're going to hate it also. If you're particularly passionate about something that I find tedious, oh my god, like, I'm more than happy to have you on board. Or do you know what? If you're utterly useless but great company, I will invite you to everything. I will invite you to everything. I'll give you whatever fucking title you want just to be in your company. Because you know what? people who I love being around, people that I genuinely vibe with. I mean, we know this. In life, how many good friends do you have? Like, if it's always lovely to see you, I'll let you do anything. I'll let you even be a little bit late or whatever, you know? Probably shouldn't. But if you're just great, if you're just positive, if we all leave a situation feeling like you made us prouder to have spent our time that way, you'll always be an asset. You know, and this is what confuses me, is that people think they can get away with being bad company if they are skilled. And maybe that works a lot of the time, because a lot of people are like that, in my opinion. But for me, I will take an unskilled person willing to give it a go, who's always lovely to see. What I have for the play is even better than that. I have lovely people who are skilled and are giving it a go. So I've got even better I've got more than I need. I'm very thrilled about the setup I have, and I'm really excited to give it a go. In my nervousness, I was saying I don't know what, because people were looking up to me. I guess I thought they were looking too far up. And so I just said I don't know what I'm doing at all. But clearly I have a thought about how to do it. I have a very strong thought about how to do it, for sure. I have a strong idea about the mindset I'm going to take into it, and that I require of the other people who are going to come into this with me. I couldn't formulate that so far. I think it's occurred to me after the auditions, after I read through, I'm starting to remember how I do things, because it's been a while since I directed anything, actually. And when I did, it was just like me and a pal, and I'll hold the camera at him and we'll figure it out. So it was very low communication required. But I think also what made me nervous is that people are looking for instruction, and I'm not going to be a terribly instructive director, because I want people to develop the characters by themselves, and therefore I need to create the opportunity for them to do so. And if they ask me questions about the characters, I will probably ask them right back, and their answers don't need to be the same as mine. What did they think of themselves? What did they think is happening in the scene? What did he mean when he said that? Where has he come from before this scene started? And the other actors don't even need to agree on the answers to those questions either. I just need them to build that kind of thing in their head. There will be more interesting tensions, I think, the more discord there is between their answers, you know? Conflict is essential on stage. It's awful off stage. So my film dicks, right? That's what I was talking about. Yeah, I had this horrible meeting with the guy, and he was talking to this other guy about a script that they were working on, right? He was talking to him in Norwegian. I think because he knew I wasn't Norwegian. They didn't stop talking when I showed up for my meeting, even though I was on time and my meeting was supposed to start. He was still just talking. He was going to take his time wrapping up the conversation with this guy before he turned to me. And then he apologized, like, weakly. And then legendarily started telling me that if I hadn't written my script on final draft, that it was no good. I just found a clip of Akira Kurosawa saying that all you need to write a script is paper and pencil. You know, but what did he know? Rashomon. I keep finding so many examples of it. I don't want to finish the film until I've completely torn apart everything that horrible producer said to me in that meeting, because I'm so against it. And I'll tell you what, right? What do I want out of this process? It is to be influential. Is to influence the world in the ways I see fit. And I tell you that the way I most see fit is by being infallibly kind and patient and gentle. These are my values. By being that in these situations, I live by example, I lead by example. This is the strongest thing you can do as a human being, more than making a book or a play or a film or anything. People will remember how you made them feel, and you will always have the most influence on the people around you. So they have the most value in the hierarchy of your own life. When I leave the house, I'm just going to be kind and vulnerable and gentle and honest. Nothing is going to come in the way of that. The success of a play is not going to come in the way of me being those things. As I say, I think the success of a play is built on me being those things. The success of a film, the success of a book, and so on. Oh shit, the meeting with the guy. He was talking to this guy. I later met the guy he was talking to in this meeting, the producer. He was talking to this guy in Norwegian about a script. I said, you guys were talking about a script? And he was like, I've never written a script. So I think he was like, I think he pretended that they were talking about some other script to make me nervous about the fact that I was having a meeting about my script. Isn't that awful? Isn't that terrible? Who would work with a person like that? And this is what I'm saying, like, he was a guy who, like, I want to see a flashback of every room he was in and what people said about him when he left, you know? Because that's your legacy. That's your influence. You want power. You want to know the influence you have over other people. What do they say when you leave the room? This is what I'm thinking about constantly. And everything, and the success of all of my creative projects aligns around that. And that's what I wanted to say before I talked about this meeting with this horrible man, where I then got vengeance upon him by making a film about how horrible he was, allegedly inspired by. What used to excite me as a writer when I knew I was getting good at it is when I could build up the opinions of characters I didn't believe in and make them successfully clash with the opinions of characters that I shared more with. I think you always have to alter it a little bit for the success of a story, and for the sake of a character not being like you always have to alter that. But I really loved when characters could clash successfully, and when at the end of that you didn't know who was right. That is great writing to a certain extent, but you do run the risk of creating false equivalences where you go, this guy could be right, this guy could not be right, who knows? And I think that what I'm getting confident in my writing now is coming to an inevitable conclusion and going, this guy's viewpoint ultimately fails in this set of circumstances because of how this pans out, and that is my message, more or less. Not as on the nose of that, but something like that is in the mix now. I don't think that you know, who knows who's right? Oh well, you know, who knows anything? Let's just go about our day is true. Obviously not. I'm obviously very passionate about kindness, and I'm never going to be kind in my writing against that. Now, I find it very odd and confusing when people don't live up to their values. I extol kindness, therefore I have to be kind. And what I see, which I like in the play, is that it has a certain value system that I think I'm still living up to. That's a huge task, but it is something that I require of myself. It's not something I require of other writers. They don't owe me that. They owe me their work, and I can decide what I think of it for myself. They don't need to lead by example, but I only say that because I've noticed that most people don't. I don't know why they don't, though, you know? But when I think about what the messages I have in my books, or the philosophy underpinning them, I try to live by that. I don't know, I don't say that out loud very often, but I guess that's true.